Hi friends, welcome back. So headline, Elon Musk ordered to attend 1 million voter lottery suit hearing in Philadelphia court. And essentially, you guys know this, Musk is running his illegal lottery thing in the swing states. We've been talking about this the last couple of days. The DOJ, Department of Justice, warned Musk, and then Musk appeared to take a pause. And then my guess is he must have consulted his lawyers, and probably what they said is, hey, just pay the fines or whatever and just keep doing what you're doing. Now the court in Philadelphia, they're saying please show up on Thursday. The DA in Philadelphia has sued. We'll see if Musk ends up showing up in court. If I had to bet, I bet that Musk isn't going to show. He has a long history of ignoring court orders and ignoring government agencies. So, we'll see. He's basically like, hey, I'm rich. I'll just pay whatever fine. And we also have this now, breaking news. Elon Musk wants to have the case moved to federal court. So we'll see what happens from that. Guys, I know we talk about Elon Musk a whole bunch in this channel, but frankly, it's hard to ignore. It's like all over the headlines. He's at the center of everything, be it our financial markets, be it our elections, our politics, our cultural sort of issues going on. He's at the middle of all this stuff. And unfortunately, it's hard to know what is real anymore. And a lot of people also sadly turn violent based on the stuff that he says and the information that he spreads on his platform. Have a look at this.
Wow. Why is it defending you? It's like defending me. All right, then shut the hell up and let me vote. Go out, no, you're not. Stop calling people down.
Wow. So if you don't understand what's going on, basically this gentleman is asked to remove his hat because it's like a MAGA hat. And essentially in many states, if you go to the polling booth, the polling place, you can't wear any campaign clothing or campaign buttons or anything of that nature. Essentially, is supposed to be sort of a campaign-free environment. And I can also tell you guys, I've voted several times in the USA, and generally the workers are pretty good. These are volunteers, just your fellow neighbors in the area, and they're not even really allowed to point at anything at the ballot. Like, they'll give you a ballot, and that just they just give it to you. You go about your way, and you go vote. This particular gentleman obviously was unhappy about being told to remove his hat, and he's like, it's America, I'm free, and that kind of stuff. And the thing is, though, for these kind of people, it should be clear that he's going to this environment looking for a fight. That's essentially what he's trying to do, and it's an awkward situation because the campaign workers, they're worried about safety, they're worried about just personal dignity, I guess you want to say. And the other thing is too is like, it's kind of awkward. You don't really want to call the police on this someone because, to be fair, regardless of how not nice this person is, he does have a right to vote, right? He has a right to go vote. But, it's like, just go vote. Just take off your hat and go vote. And, he wants to fight. And unfortunately, a lot of this culture that you'll see with this kind of person is sort of egged on by people like Musk and the algorithms. Whether or not this Russia propaganda and that kind of stuff is sort of feeding into that. We know that there is money coming from Russia onto the Twitter platform, these kind of things. And it makes some people in these circles even more mad when you tell them that kind of stuff. And it's really, really awkward. Guys, it's just frustrating because, I understand this person's plight and that particular person's point of view. Like, he feels like, if his candidate doesn't win the election, then the whole world's going to fall apart and he's going to lose everything. And this goes back to sort of what I try to do my best on this channel is be in a situation to where, you understand, okay, I just be clear with you guys. I think there's, one candidate better than the other. You can probably figure out who I think that is. It's not hard to figure out. But regardless of who wins, I just accept it, right? That's the winner. I accept it if my side loses, come back in 4 years and get a better candidate. I'm not going to be, punching and kicking and screaming. I want to give you an example. So, we just had the World Series. You can see right here, the Dodgers won. They beat the Yankees. And just imagine if like the Yankees, start pulling out the baseball bats and beating everything, going, I didn't, you cheated and blah, blah, blah. Like just think about how like the moral breakdown and just major problems with that when literally we all can see that the Dodgers won. And unfortunately, because of the social media world that we live in these days with someone like a Mr. Musk, he can kind of shape people's views. And frankly, people again can turn violent. And it's very, very disturbing because what I like to say, the rest of us who are just like, hey, let's not have violence. Like, how do you handle these kind of things? Because, if I respond to violence with more violence, it just keeps growing and growing. And then you sort of feed into their conspiratorial kind of thinking. It is really, really hard to deal with. And for me, in order to keep sane, I literally just make videos and chat with you guys about this stuff, about my concerns about these things. And, my best all I can do is just try to tell you what's going on, and let's be aware of what's happening. Here's like an example. So this just came out yesterday, and like I said, I don't think Musk is going to show up at the court regarding the lottery thing. He'll keep doing it. Evidently they were hiring campaign workers. This is in, I think, Michigan. Yeah, this is in Michigan. These people are hired to knock on doors, doing some canvassing, and they're supposed to ask like who you're voting for, etc. And there's a couple things that's really interesting about this. First, I'll read the headline. It says, workers say they were tricked and threatened as part of Elon Musk's get out the vote effort. And these people are actually driven around in U-Hauls. It's right here. You can see. So I guess initially they rented Ubers initially, but I guess that didn't work out for whatever reason. And the workers were told they were going to be given rental cars, but for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have enough money in the campaign. I don't know. You can ask Musk. And then ultimately they loaded up these people into like these U-Haul vehicles, which is definitely not designed for passenger vehicle. And people felt really uncomfortable and scared. That's what it says here. The workers were also primarily, at least in this situation, they're saying they were black, because I think they're going to those kind of neighborhoods. And, they didn't know what the job was exactly. They just knew it was some sort of job, and they didn't know who they were working for. And I think the reason why Musk and, the Trump team do that is to sort of keep it secrets, because, no one's going to work for them if they knew who it really was for. Let me read a little bit of it, and you guys can see what I'm saying here. It says, by Sunday, the door knockers were loaded into a rented U-Haul moving van with no rear seating or seatbelts. You guys saw in the photo. Quote, we were all told our transportation would be handled and we'd be in rental cars. It turned out that the U-Haul vans, and I felt embarrassed and played. That's coming from one of the campaign workers there. The video from inside the van shows a bumpy ride with a cage separating the mostly black door knockers from the driver. The driver also told the group of door knockers that he was in pain and had difficulty driving. Quote, I just had surgery, bro. The U-Haul driver in another another recording obtained by Wired, like half my foot is cut off. Another person said, I'm scared. The door knocker spoke to Wired, and I read through this stuff. I just want to give you an idea of what this is. And this whole situation, what you're seeing, let's say, with these campaign workers working for Musk and we're right in the back of U-Haul, or the angry, person at the poll, it represents what's going on in a lot of people's lives. Is some people, they're unfortunate in bad economic situations to where they have to take any job. And even in this situation, let's say they find out they do working for Trump and Musk, would they still do it? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, because of the way that it is, the Musk and the Trump people hid who they're working for, and they were able to hire people, and then they just treat people like this, which is obviously not a good look. I feel sad for the whole situation. I mean, there's nothing good about any of this stuff, and I it's all frustrating. I don't know how else to say it. Let me share more. You also have and this is where it goes into like the financial markets, where we talk about where you have these people who are basically paid by Musk to pump up his stock in his company Tesla. This is Farzad. He's one of the king stock promoters. He's like, hey, one thing is very clear this election cycle: the Trump campaign and surrogates are outworking the total stuff out of the Harris campaign and media. Trump, Vance, Vivek, Tulsi, RFK Jr., Elon are all doing a ton of long-form discussions. Harris campaign in total has done like 5. So according to Farzad, and this is the narrative they want to push out, at least Farzad, is like, all these people go on Joe Rogan's podcast, and because they're going on Joe Rogan's podcast, that is that shows that you're doing the right thing. Go on Joe Rogan's podcast. So basically he's promoting mainstream media is bad, only stuff on X is good, only Joe Rogan is good, only Elon Musk is good. That's basically the message here. And whereas Kamala Harris, she's actually doing these like massive campaign rallies in like big stadiums. Like I can see it on TV and stuff. Whereas the other candidate is just going to a podcast with no fans or anywhere. And also you see his, his turnouts at his events, they're not great. Um, and if you understand, like, it, how can I say, if you want to live in this reality, right, in the Musk and the Farzads and these people's reality, you say, oh yeah, only Joe Rogan matters, right, and that it makes sense to them, right? You shape the narrative, and this is why the Musk stuff becomes really, important to understand what's going on, because it also shapes our financial markets to where, again, if you control the narrative, regardless of if it's any truthful or not, it shapes a narrative, and then again, people will be kicking and screaming at the polls, or if their side doesn't win, they'll be kicking and screaming afterwards. It's sort of why we have to talk about this stuff. Or if Musk companies commit fraud, and then he just says, no, just ignore all the news, only pay attention to what happens on X. It ruins the integrity of our financial markets. And again, I go back to the Dodgers Yankees examples, to where there needs to be some sort of sense of reality back into our world. Let me give you sort of what Joe Rogan said, and I'll give my point of view on this. So this is literally coming directly from Joe Rogan about why Kamala Harris hasn't gone on a show yet. This is from Joe Rogan. He says here, if you don't know, it's a popular podcaster which is popular with young men, essentially. But it says, also, for the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on doing the podcast. So Kamala's saying that she'll do it, right? She said they're not passed on it. They offered a date for Tuesday. Okay, so they said they'll do it on Tuesday, but I would have to travel to her, and they only wanted to do an hour. Okay, so that was the offer. If you want to do the thing, we'll do it on Tuesday. Come to us. We'll do it for an hour. He said here, I strongly feel the best way to do it is in the studio in Austin, right? So he's like, no, you got to come to Texas. My sincere wish is to have a nice conversation and get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. Now, let's just think about this. And I was, when I read this, I'm just thinking about, this is silly. The whole thing is silly. Why? So here's the thing. Kamala Harris has a couple choices, right? And this is just in general as campaigning. Do I do 2 or 3 campaign stops, be it in a swing states, right? Let's say I want to go to Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, or whatever, right? Because that's the kind of stuff that these people do. Or do I want to fly all the way down to Texas to do a 3-hour interview when, frankly, an hour is enough? If Joe Rogan really wanted to do it, he would just go to her. And so then the way that you would paint this is like, oh, she just doesn't want to do it. Like, literally, she's saying, if you want to do it, and I'll let you guys be the judge of that. And this is the kind of situation to where it just depends what you want to see, right? If you want to see that, oh, she doesn't want to go to Texas, to where, and just to be perfectly frank, there's not really any reason for her to go to Texas the same way. There's not actually any real reason for Trump to go to New York, because you should be going to the swing states, etc. But again, it depends how you want to read it. And I know people are going to read this any number of ways. If you want to be angry, you'll read it the angry way. If you want to read it, like I think my reading of it is perfectly fine, and I'm fine having a discussion of either way. And I'm not going to get angry if you disagree. But we live in a world these days where sort of the sort of must generate stuff gets people really, really angry. And I want to phrase it in this way as well, is like, just look what you see. And this is sort of what I tell with you guys all the time, is we try to look at the facts as we can, and we have discussions about it. So here's an example. A couple days ago, Elon Musk, he's writing to someone, basically telling people to, give his, robot AI thing called Grok your medical records. For real. He says here, try submitting X-ray, PET, MRI, or other medical images to Grok. So that's Musk's like AI company thing, or I guess you call it application over at X, or want to call this thing. It's his AI thing. So AI platform, I guess you call it. So please give your medical stuff to me, basically Musk, to Grok for analysis. This is still an early stage, but is already quite accurate and will be extremely good. Let us know where Grok gets it right or needs work. And again, just think about how crazy narrative that we're in these days, to where you have all these, people that say are on my side, complaining about conspiracies, and the government wants to track them and all that kind of stuff. And, you should get the tinfoil hat. But then, like, when Musk says, hey guys, you got to put a chip in your brain, or you got to send me your medical records. Oh yeah. I'll send them right to you, Mr. Musk. Yeah. And then it makes sense from, from the Farzad point of view, of like, oh yeah, Kamala Harris is just bad. She's had a terrible campaign. She doesn't go on Joe Rogan. Look at all the other people that go on Joe Rogan. She's out doing, campaign rallies at 3 different states with full stadiums, but no, she's doing terrible. and this goes back to sort of, guys, what I just try to do, like, literally just show you everything that I'm looking at and say, hey, which made sense for you? And this is what we have the conversation on. I don't I don't know what else to say. To me, it's obvious, but I'll let you make up your own mind of who is telling truth and who's not. One thing I will say with this stuff, though, again, is we just talked about this just the last video yesterday with the super microcomputer situation. Why am I bringing this up? This is because part of what happens in our financial markets these days, you get these crazy, YouTube channels saying, "Oh, guys, super micro is so awesome," and it keeps going to the moon, and you don't know. Sometimes these people are paid to say these kind of things. And if you don't believe me, I find some of my other videos. I've literally showed you contracts where people are paid and sort of how the situation works. And then it turns out like this is all accounting fraud, etc. And I wouldn't be shocked if we find out eventually that like there's a whole bunch of dirt and stuff going on with Elon, because this a lot of stuff just doesn't add up. You're talking about a guy who's like, hey, we're gonna have 1 million people on Mars. I think the last date he gave us was 2030. Recently, he said, by 2040, we're going to have more humanoid robots than people. That's like in what, 25 years or something. I was like, yeah, yeah. No, actually, less than that, 15 years. And then he's also telling people, hey, you're all going to get rich from robo taxis. We're going to have like 2 million a year. And then he gets his like, fanboys and fangirls to say and repeat this nonsense. And again, this is sort of why, when we talk about any of these subjects, right? Any of these subjects, it's not just politics. It's, to me, it's about reality. And unfortunately, there's some people who choose not to live in it. And then when things kind of go differently than what they think, because they've been shaped by these conspiracy theories, they get really, really upset at the world. That's why I showed you the video of the guy getting upset at the election place. So again, it affects our culture issues, our politics, our markets, everything. And I just want to keep things grounded in reality. So I hope you guys understand the point of this thing, why this guy is frankly really, really dangerous. And we got to keep talking about it. And I'll catch you in the next video.